allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for attending today, and welcome to all our online visitors. Approval of December 8th minutes.
Move to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval of the agenda. Any additions to the agenda?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda as printed. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Approval of year-end bills.
You did have an additional list of stuff that came in.
That's just one of the.
Yep. Yep. Stuff that came in the mail after we did the first one.
There's a couple of them on the highway department list, one for KLJ, and one for True North Steel. They're over 2,000. Do you want separate motions on those two? If not, we could act on them.
What have we done in the past, Kevin? Have we had over 2,000, we do it separately or not?
I didn't have them on my agenda is why I asked, but I can certainly put them on there.
You didn't have them on here?
On my agenda part.
Okay. On there. Oh, sure.
I moved that we approve the bills. I'll second. Can we add Kevin's in there too on that motion? Or you want to do it on a separate motion?
Let's do those bigger ones on a separate.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Excluding Kevin's two bills.
Just approve what we have in front of us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Move to approve the year-end bills. Any other discussion? Commissioner Volk seconding that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Just one comment, I got to the last page at the bottom, the lodging tax, quite a bit, a significant amount of money got out of that. Hey, Adam?
It's greater than I anticipated when we put it together, that's for sure.
How long a period is this? Do you remember?
This is monthly, correct?
That's a month?
Yes. 11,000 this month. Last month was like 5. I figured when we put it together that it would be in the 60 to 70,000 a year range maybe, but it's looking like it's probably gonna track more like 100 to 120, I would guess.
So, yeah.
It's on hotel rooms as well as a small portion of restaurant bills outside rooms. So, and then it all goes back towards tourism to help bring more people in here.
Any additional discussion on the bills? We haven't voted on that, have we? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Oh yeah, roll call, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Lightfon,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Volk,
Aye.
Britt.
Aye. Motion passes. Brings us up to our District 15 delegation. And with the upcoming legislative session, I asked our legislators to come in and give us a kind of an update on what they see transpiring down at the state capitol this year. Should be a different session maybe. And with Senator Elke in attendance, and we have Representative Johnson on video. We'll let Senator Elke go first. So welcome.
Hey, Jeff.
Hi, Dennis.
Hey, Johnson.
Elke.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Is it okay if I
Well,
take this mask off?
I can certainly hear you now. Do you want me on video or?
Oh, there he is. His smiling face is right there.
We see you, Dennis.
Okay, the legislative session is going to be a little bit different. You're experiencing some of those issues here right in front of you right now. We're going to have a lot less people attending committee hearings and a lot less people roaming around the Capitol. Schools have already been alerted that, they're really not inviting student guests to come in like they have in the past and tour the facility and sit with their legislator. So, those things are meaningful parts of the legislative process, and I really enjoy them personally because I like especially young people to come in, sit with me in the Senate and learn a little bit about what the process is like. And I know, when they miss that, they're missing some pretty good civics lessons. And, just like when we do the Pledge of Allegiance here today, we do that every day in the Senate. They do it every day in the House. Those things are important, and it's important for the people of North Dakota to be able to see that happening. Now, the other side of that is it's all going to be online. So anybody will be able, from wherever they happen to be, anyone who's interested will be able to tune in to a Senate session or House session, or even the committee hearings. So all of, like my appropriations committee that I'm on, that appropriations committee is going to be moved into a bigger room, one that haven't been using for the last 100 years, but it is going to be bigger, and we'll be able to space out a little bit. There will be able to be, if you had an interest and you wanted to come to the Capitol and make an appearance in front of our committee and talk about an issue, you would be able to do that. But in order to get into the building, of course, just like the legislators, just like the employees every day at the Capitol, they have to walk through security. They have to get their temperature taken. They have to go through all these hoops to make sure they're healthy and all that sort of thing. And so there's going to be less people at the Capitol. I know I've talked to lobbyists who don't plan to attend unless they really, really, really have to. They're going to be attending remotely, just like Representative Johnson is doing today. Now, those people will still be able to make their testimony heard, but I'm a little concerned because typically we have enough time to hear everyone's testimony in person at a committee hearing. I don't know that that's going to be quite possible if tons of people are interested in a particular issue and they all want to testify. The hearings aren't going to be long enough for that to happen. So it might be a first come, first served basis, and then the rest of them will simply have to provide a written or audio testimony that we can pick up on our own. So, I'm concerned about the whole process not being as face-to-face as I like it. I like to be able to look my friends in the eye and be able to talk across the aisle and get people to understand our position and vice versa, and have you guys or anybody that's interested convey the issues that they're concerned about to us in person. It's just very, very important. So it's going to be different. We're going to be safe. We're going to be cognizant of face masks or shields. I've got a shield in my office that I wear, and I'll probably be wearing that quite a little during the session. Part of the reason is because you can hear someone a little better because their voice can get out, and it also doesn't restrict the breathing quite as much. I did notice a couple of legislators during the organizational session that said by the end of the day they were getting lightheaded. because we're wearing these things all day long. Well, that's because your oxygen level is dropping, so you need to get some fresh air, you need to get that mask off, you need to get some real breaths of air in, and you need to walk around and be able to get a little exercise. All that is going to take a little bit of a backseat this session, so it's going to make it a little bit tougher. But I don't think that the issues are going to suffer. Things like Kevin's roads, we're going to hear about those. We're going to know about that because Kevin and township folks and the county folks and the city folks, they're going to make sure that we get the message, whether it's when we're back home on a weekend or during or on our emails that we get lots of every day. So will it be different? Yeah, it's going to be different, but we'll get the job done. We'll get the job done. I'm not sure if this is going to drag it out longer or maybe even make it a little bit shorter and maybe more efficient. Who knows? But we'll find out. The biggest issues we have, of course, are issues that just about every city, county, township, school district, everybody has. It's going to be money. All of the dollars that have been flowing into the state from oil, some of that revenue is dwindling a little bit, and it will dwindle more. How soon that'll pop back, or how quickly prices are going to pop back up or not, we'll just have to see how that goes. Fortunately, we have not dove into that legacy fund that we established and that you all voted on in 2010. I remember that legacy fund when it first started. I happened to be on the conference committee and I carried that bill to the Senate. The bean counters in the state told us that, by 2015 we could have $600,000 in this fund. Well, as you well know, the legacy fund is in the 7 billion range, 7.2, I believe. So the interest coming off that legacy fund is very meaningful to keep that state budget balanced. That's one thing that's different about the state of North Dakota from almost every other state. We can't leave that building unless we have a balanced budget. We can't budget on what might be going to happen 6 months or a year down the road. We have to come out with a balanced budget. So we always plan for a certain amount of carryover so that we can make sure that's going to happen for the next 2 years once we get back and are looking at the next biennium. And it seems like the people that work for us in the legislature and do the numbers for us in the legislature and the appropriations committees and all the legislators in particular seem to have a better idea of what's going to happen in North Dakota than accountants out in New Jersey. We do take their input. We do get numbers from those guys that are the pros that look at a worldwide view. But I can tell you that our projections, since I've been in the legislature, from more of a local perspective, have been better than what theirs have been. So it's going to be really interesting to see where we go in this next session with dollars and cents. I don't believe education's going to suffer. I don't believe roads are going to suffer. They are so critically important in the state of North Dakota for everything we do. And ag is still our #1 revenue source in the state of North Dakota. So, we can't go ignoring roads. And, we're human services. It's not going to be ignored. It's not there. It is so important. We met with, Greg and Dennis and I met with the Devils Lake School District a week and a half ago. This whole virtual world that we're living in right now is not really a healthy scenario for young people or old people. It doesn't matter. It's not, and it isn't that it isn't physically healthy, it's not mentally healthy. And one of the things the schools are concerned about is, can we get enough social workers in our school system to help us deal with the fallout that's starting to happen and going to be happening because of the mental stress on kids in an environment like this. You know, it's kind of like being a child in the middle of a war zone. You know, they're always, whether they look like it or not, they're always on edge because their parents are on edge, or maybe they're not working because they lost their job because of the virus issues, or they, you know, there are so many things that are getting to be a part of this, but I'm sure Rhonda can explain it a lot better than I can. But the mental health of our communities is going to be critically important. So, you know, the big needs, I don't think are going to suffer from need. There will be agencies that are going to have to tighten their buckles, tighten their belts a little bit, and they all know that, and they've all, you know, the governor's budget that he's put out is indicative of that, but that doesn't mean it's going to be exactly like it's out there now. That's just one of the options. So we deal with every agency. I think there's 51 agencies in the state of North Dakota that we deal with their budgets on. But our Senate Appropriations Committee, we get the first 25 or 26 the first half of the session, and then we get the others the second half, and vice versa with the House Appropriations Committee. So, you know, we go through the nickels and dimes and pennies, and we make sure that we're getting that the people in North Dakota are getting their bucks worth. Have I said enough, Johnson?
Sounds good.
Do we want to ask Senator Elke some questions, or we want to let Representative Johnson and Representative Westland have an opportunity to speak?
Maybe they can answer any questions you got.
Yeah. I know it's going to be an interesting session, some changes. We had an ILG Association of Counties had a legislative process seminar this morning, and talked a little bit about the testifying in the committee hearings and how anybody can watch these committee hearings. That, you know, ITD had a tremendous task of implementing the technology for all this virtual meetings down there at the Capitol, and I think they've done a wonderful job with that, getting all the committee hearings online and available for people to watch. But you also have an opportunity to testify virtually as well. You will have to register, they said, for testifying, and you'll have an opportunity to submit your testimony ahead of time. So, like Senator Elke said, if you don't have the time within that committee hearing for actual testimony, then they can have it virtually, have it electronically. So a lot of different changes, but and do you think you'll still see the 800 to 1,000 bills ahead of you? Or do you think that?
I do. Yeah, I'm sure we will. Yeah, absolutely. You know, it usually is not it's usually not the senators and representatives that have been around for a significant number of years that are coming out with a lot of different ideas or whatever, but I've certainly heard some things come down the pipeline, everything from youthful drivers to more fines for speeding and you know, does it all make sense? It all has to go through the hoops. That's one thing about the state of North Dakota. If you can get a legislator like me or Dennis or Greg to sponsor a piece of legislation for you, it must go through the process. it has to have a hearing in either the House or the Senate to start with. And if it gets through the House or the Senate, then it also goes over to either across the hall to the opposite house and has another hearing. And then it can get killed anywhere along the way, but you're guaranteed to have that initial hearing. So you will see a lot of, especially newer legislators that probably just want to do something that they've thought about for a long time, or maybe someone's put a bug in their ear. I've certainly got a lot of appeals from different entities that say, we should do this, we should do that, can you sponsor this, will you sponsor that? And a lot of these issues are not coming from inside the state of North Dakota, I have to tell you that right now. They're coming from far, far away. There's somebody's idea from Arizona or California or Alabama, but they're trying to get all these issues addressed in every state in the union. So yeah, I think we're probably going to have 900 plus bills. We haven't failed to do that since I've been in the legislature yet, so I'm sure we will. I think we had close to 1,100 last time.
Questions?
See what the other two had to say.
Yeah. Representative Johnson, the floor is yours.
Okay, hey, should I click on my camera here? Do you want to see me?
Not really.
Elkie, you look
pretty
the
good.
other way now, Elkie. So anyway, thanks a lot, you folks, for having us in tonight and doing this. You know, in ways, this has really made I think everybody's life a little easier for communication. You know, we were on some meetings yesterday, and we've had one this morning, and people from around the state can sit down like this for, I think we're on there this morning for about 45 minutes, Greg, but we had the opportunity to visit like this and talk about the issues they had at hand. And when it's over, you can get back to what you're doing and you're not driving, you know, for 2-3 hours. So I'm getting used to this, and I sort of like it. One thing, you talked, both Senator Elkie and you touched on, Jeff, about the meetings. We had a chairman's briefing the other day from IT down there, and I think the lobbyists are going to have it the next day or a couple days later. But one thing, you know, it's when you get older, the older you get, a little more apprehensive you get of technology. But I think we get used to this. It's going to be a pretty good deal as far as folks having the opportunity to testify if they can get in, rather than trying to get to Bismarck when it's 20 below and a 30-mile-an-hour wind in the wintertime. So that opportunity is going to be there across the state. One thing, and I have to get more detail in this before I can share it, and maybe you've had this already presented to you, but I know that our calendars are put together so they're out by Thursday of the previous week for what's the coming attractions for the next week. And so if I give you an example, if I got a bill at 9 o'clock in agriculture on Thursday morning, if you are going to testify from Devil's Lake, you have to have your testimony written after a deadline on Wednesday of that week and before 8 o'clock that Thursday morning, so staff can go over your testimony. So when it's being read, when it's live for the whole world to see, we don't have a surprise. Something in there would be probably not appropriate to be televised like that. So along with that, we'll have, instead of one clerk this year, the chairmans will have two clerks, one more or less manning the electronics of it, and the other one doing what they usually do as far as helping the chairman keep the flow of the meeting going. So it's still going to be the chairman's call as far as how many testify on a bill. If you're going to have 6 for the bill and 6 against, or however you lay out the groundwork for that bill, depending on how contradictory the bill may be, as far as how many may be in attendance. I think most of you have been there when we've had the Brim Hill Hogan room full, and you've been there, and there's just probably a couple in attendance. So that'll have to be decided how much time we will allow for a hearing, and then, like I say, that's going to be up to the chairman to make that decision. So that's we'll get used to it. And I think we're going to have support from IT as we get into it. They said we're going to try and stagger the first week. They're going to stagger the starting times of the meetings so IT can get around to the different committee hearings to help everybody get on board with this technology. So that was my takeaway on that meeting we had as far as conducting the meeting. I'm on agriculture, I chair the agriculture again. I'm on education again, so it's what we've done in the past. I've got a few pre-filed bills that come out of the interim committee with agriculture, and I know there's some water bills they're still not out of being council still working on the draft of those bills, and so I really can't share at this time still what's going to be in those bills. But as soon as I do have that information, I'll get it back to you, Jeff, or whoever else you want to see it there, and you'll probably get it before I get it to you because you have the network of people, the same people that are involved there, the people you work with too, Jeff. So other than that, I guess if there's questions, I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you. I'll let Representative Westland go ahead and give some opening remarks if you would.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me to this meeting. And I sit on Human Services and Transportation. And Human Services, we do a lot of work with your local nursing homes, hospitals, Medicaid expansion, this type of thing. And the governor's trying to cut back on some of that stuff, especially Medicaid expansion. He wants to bring it back in-house and also cut the rates in that. So we will fight to not do that. And at last session, we won the fight, and we will continue to do that in the future. Now, the transportation is pretty light. The biggest thing in transportation is road trains, where we can increase the length of our semis. And for example, a semi carrying or pulling one 50-foot trailer, we're looking at increasing that to like 2 50-foot trailers. So a farmer taking this product into town will be able to take 2,000 bushels of wheat into town instead of 1,000 bushels. And with proper bridging and the length of the trucks and this type of thing, the wear on the highways will be no more than when I first come up here, we had a 2-ton truck that was licensed for 24,000, and we always put 30,000 on it, and they did more damage to roads than these road trains will do. So that's something that I'm looking forward to working on, and hopefully we can get that passed. So, and I'll certainly answer any questions.
One of the concerns, I don't know which one wants to answer this, but is the social service funding. Is there any fear of that being cut or diminished in any way?
No, I think social service funding, the whole human service budget, I believe, is going to see a slight increase, and I don't believe that we're going to be looking at any decreases in funding in that area. Certainly our nursing homes cannot get a reduction in costs there. Medicaid expansion, which has been to me a godsend for North Dakota, and in my rural community with our hospital, we used to write off about $600,000 a year for people on Medicaid coming into our emergency room and not be able to pay. Well, Medicaid expansion has given us the tool to collect on that, basically like an insurance company. And so our loss at our little local hospital is minimal anymore. So it's something I certainly will work hard for.
What other question?
And continue.
Go ahead, Greg.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I have one other question on the zone programs. Is the state happy the way they're going from what you've heard?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand that.
The zone program, where we've got, 19 zones in the state? Are they all Yeah. Is the state happy the way that's going with the social service?
I think so. You know, the social service is all being funded by the state now, which in our local areas, you know, and I just think it's really going to turn out quite well. If I understood the question right.
Yeah, I was just curious if the state is happy with all 19 zones and the way they're getting run, the way things are turning out. I mean, they've had 2 years now to look at it. Are they happy? Or is that the feel you're getting from the state down there in Bismarck?
I'm quite sorry, but I cannot understand that question for some reason. I'm not getting a good response here, so.
So I've not heard any negative feedback on that, Ed, but how's it working for our area, the way it's going now?
Well, I think our director's here, Rhonda's here. She's nodding her head yes. So
if it wasn't working well, I think I would have heard from Rhonda by now, right, Rhonda?
Well, I sit on that on her board, and I think Ed, I think things are working out quite well. There's going to be some bumps on the road, and I think we need to look at the state doing some additional funding there, especially in Rolette County and Benson County. Counter County is nothing but, you know, we need to look at some better funding up in Rolette with indirect expenses and this type of thing. So I think that's going to be an issue down there, and I certainly will work to try to improve that.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Prairie Dog money. Where's that going?
It's coming.
It's coming?
It's coming. The buckets are being filled. Elke can, Senator Elke could probably answer that better than I can.
Well,
Are you there, Dave?
Yeah, I'm right here, thanks. As you well know, it didn't get delayed as much as it got just pushed back a little bit because, like Greg mentioned, the whole process was that you had to, this fund had to get its top level first, and then this one, and after that, then any excess was going to come back to cities, counties, and townships, and that's still a process, although it's probably not going to be called Prairie Dog. I think Senator Wardner came up with another name for it now. And the dollars probably aren't going to be exactly the same either. But like I mentioned when I first got up there, all we need is another $5 a barrel for oil, and then things are going to change an awful lot. So it's a moving target, but it's not being ignored. Let's put it that way.
We can anticipate some money from the Prairie Dog funds?
Yeah.
Come July 2021, correct?
Right.
Thank you.
One thing I should mention about the state of North Dakota, which is pretty cool, that I don't think we appreciate like we should, and that's the communication system that we have throughout the state of North Dakota. And Representatives Johnson and Westland being online right now and being able to have their picture up there and see it live and in time is a reality that every state does not have. Every state is not as up to speed as North Dakota is. North Dakota, they put in that northern tier communication line mainly to help universities and schools, high schools, grade schools, be able to do these kinds of things quite some time ago. So we've been ahead of the curve, and we're still ahead of the curve. We're going to be able to do things in North Dakota with that technology that other states either won't be able to do, or it's going to be a while yet before they can handle it. And they're spending a ton of money in other places trying to do what we have the luxury of been doing for quite some time. So that's not kudos to me or Representative Johnson. Well, maybe Johnson, because he's been there since 1992. He probably helped vote on some of this and get it started, but it was already rolling nicely. I remember when I was on the Devils Lake Public School Foundation Fund. You were president of the board, Ed. And if you remember, we bought whiteboards for every grade school classroom in Devils Lake. And at the time, that was like, nobody does this. What little town in rural anywhere has this kind of capacity to do that? But it's because of that communication system that was broadband and already set up in the state of North Dakota. So, we're leagues ahead of many other places in the country. So it doesn't mean anything to us necessarily, except I think there's a lot of people in North Dakota that have a pretty good vision for what the future can be and will be and what we should be doing to get there. And I think North Dakota does a pretty good job at that.
I would open the floor up for Rhonda to ask some questions.
Absolutely. I was just gonna do that. We have some of our bigger departments here that may have some questions for you, gentlemen. Kevin Fieldson, our highway superintendent, transportation is always a big issue in rural North Dakota. But we also have Rhonda Ellery, director of our zone, Mountain Lake Social Service Zone. And that's been a big benefit for the county, having the state funding social services. So Rhonda, I'll let you take things away, and if you have any questions or for the legislators, please.
I just have one, and Representative Westland mentioned.
You may have to come up to the podium, please.
Sorry. I just have one.
Oh, that's where our microphones are, so.
Okay, I just have one question. Representative Westland, you mentioned the indirect cost issue. I haven't seen any bills. Are you aware of anyone bringing up any bills, or what any legislation could potentially be?
No, I'm not, Rhonda, and we've talked about this before, but I think something will come forward on this here, on the indirect expenses, just to try to even things out with the county, because, if I have this correct, we're like 2 years behind on projecting our funding. Is that right, Rhonda?
Well,
what we spent 2 years,
it's 4 years now, but yeah.
But the state is, I shouldn't say backwards, but it's delayed funding. So our budgets are set when we increase cost on indirect funding. We don't have the budget for it. So we're, jockeying things around. And Rhonda, I think, to me, something will probably come up, but I have no idea or no knowledge of any bills that are coming forward yet. So.
Okay, it's pretty complicated. We were able to give some money back to Rolette County under the indirect. We were pretty frugal with our funding, our indirect funding this year. We didn't buy any vehicles. So I hope that helped a little bit. Rolette County, was based on the 2016 countywide cost allocation. Some of it, the formula payment was, and the other part of it was based on their direct costs. So it really sets up some disparities, because if you spend $10 on paper in Rolette County, you got $10 back. If you spend 20 in Ramsey County, you get $20 back. So it really sets up some disparities for maybe the workers in Rolette County not to have the same equipment, that type of thing. Our zone board was very good at sharing if we needed to. That was brought up really early on, that we would share with some software that was purchased, and I know you voted on that too. So thank you. That's all that I had. I was just curious about that issue, because I know that Commissioner Alec Albert was very much telling us that there was going to be a bill, but I have not heard anything. So thank you.
Yeah, Rhonda, I haven't heard anything either, but I am expecting something, at the legislature this year that will come up regarding this.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You bet, Rhonda. Thank you.
Kevin, would you have anything for the legislators?
Sure. First of all, I just want to thank you guys for coming to our meeting. It's always fun to get together and discuss issues, but one thing that statewide, not necessarily just Ramsey County, but I'm sure you're all aware in 2025, the road and bridge funds can only have 10 mills. I know there's been a lot of discussion about that throughout the state. Well, that's not going to help us out. And I wonder if there's any legislation being introduced to change that or adjust that or make that different. Crickets.
Well, yeah, I'm not aware of any direct legislation that would change that, but yeah, that definitely is worthy of consideration. So that, Greg, you're on transportation, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I think Greg and I can check on that together and we'll see what we can do with it. Because you're right, the bridges especially are a big deal. And I know this might be hard to believe, but even at that, North Dakota is ahead of other states. You know, if you were in Minnesota, they're so far behind on all their bridges, and we are too, but the dollar amounts are not even comparable. You know, we're in better shape than many other states are, but we need to get better because, I mean, you just look at the size of loads and stuff and see these smaller bridges. Even the roads I drive when I typically go back and forth to Bismarck, if I move over 6 inches, I could have my foot off the bridge. And sometimes there's not a marker. So, yeah, we need to put more after that.
You know, the governor is proposing some bonding to take care of some of these problems, but again, it's attacking the legacy fund, and you know, I need to listen to this before I will commit to supporting this bonding issue. I just don't know if rating the legacy fund to do these bonds is the right step. And I know we need to do something with our bridges and roads in our counties, but I need to listen to this before I decide what action to take on the bonding issue.
Bonding works well for cities because they can do a sales tax or something like that to repay the bond, but in the county's cases, it's a little tougher to get enough revenue out of property tax to repay the bond.
Well, that's exactly right. You know, if we had Towner County needs a lot of bridges done. If we took out $1 million bond, all it's going to do is increase our property tax to repay that bond. Or at least that's my opinion. And quite frankly, on the legacy fund, I'd like to see that fund built up to $20 billion and have some real impact on property tax abatements. And, you know, instead of, you know, get rid of these property tax, it kills a lot of people. You know, and it's not a real fair tax as far as I'm concerned.
Greg, while we're on transportation, you talked about the road trains a little bit. In some of the committees that I've sat in on, some of the concerns that they had was, is our current road infrastructure capable of handling loads that long for turn lanes and different things like that? Are some of the concerns that were brought up with the road train issues? Is that any concern, or is that a legitimate concern, do you think?
Well, once again, we've discussed the road train, and Representative Johnson can probably answer more to that, but I think there's a real good place for road trains. But you know, we're not going to hook up 3 50-foot trailers to a semi and haul 3,000 bushels of wheat to the elevator. But I think there's room for the study, you know, because we have to do some federal, you know, like I-29 and all your interstates that are federally funded. You know, we're going to have to get some federal rules changed on that. So, but I still think it's worth the study, and I think we need to do a project on that, you know, a pilot project to see if it's going to work. So I'm going to work hard on that, I can tell you that, so.
That bill did come out of the interim transportation ag committee. We sent a resolution forwarding that to the federal government. Obviously, federal rules have to be changed to accommodate this type of legislation. They wanted it done as regional instead of North Dakota sitting on an island here. The other states around us, Montana, South Dakota, Minnesota, are interested, but we're going to have to do it regionally. So along with that, we did pass a bill allowing the governor to change lengths, weights, and I don't know if that one will go too far. He can do that now in emergency declarations, but they wanted to keep. There's a group that wants to keep this alive, and keep in mind, safety is the number one focus on this thing. We don't want to start going down a road where we're going to have safety issues with lengths, with loads. And a pilot project like Representative Westland said would designate which roads would allow this to happen on. You're going to need points of origin, points of destination, how to handle a hookup like this when they get to a place where they unload or where they do load. So it's all, you have to start somewhere, and we're in the conversation stages right now if we want to go down this road. One thing that'll come up right away, when we had this bill in the interim this past summer or October, I guess is late when we had our last meeting, but we had a lot of feedback from county commissioners, law enforcement, really concerned about the weights, you know, because they had it figured out. If you had 3 trailers, triple axles on the front and the back of each trailer, how you could get this weight up to, you know, up in that 300,000 pound range, I think. That, you know, in reality, that probably could happen, but what we're more focused on is the bridges, what configuration you could have, and more so probably moving empty trailers, getting them back to a loading destination or their partial loads. I mean, like these bread trucks are running now, they never do see 80,000 pounds. So it isn't necessarily the weights we're after here. We're trying to figure out how you can move more trailers with obviously less drivers. Statistics show we're just getting less commercial drivers every year as they retire, and it's not as attractive to go in that line of work with the hours and the commitment of being gone from home and stuff. So just things we're looking at. If it happens, great, and if it doesn't, you know, it's what the folks will decide that they're working on this.
You know, I look at South Dakota, when I go down there pheasant hunting once in a while, I see, you know, a semi hauling 2 50-foot trailers. And so they're taking 10,000, or I should say 2,000 bushels of corn to the market. And I could envision just on my farm of hauling 2,000 bushels of wheat, you know, it would reduce our cost tremendously of getting our product to market. You know, and I just, it's not like that we're going to do the road trains over in Australia where they have 3 50-foot trailers hooked together, or even 5 in the mining countries over there. It's just the fact that we're going to try to get something done where it's more efficient, you know, for farmers and any other, you know, mover to haul these products.
Sounds very good. Thank you. One other concern that I'd have that would be a big expense would be law enforcement incarceration costs on Department of Corrections and the public radio, the siren program, and possibility for funding on that. Commissioner Brown and myself both sit on the Law Enforcement Senate board, and that's a huge cost to taxpayers in the county. We have our state attorney, Carrie Gottness here, who's part of that system. And so if either one of those, Mr. Brown or Carrie, would have any questions regarding Department of Corrections or siren program.
Well, first, I'd like to thank the representatives of the state of North Dakota for taking over the funding social service. That was a huge help on property taxes in this county. But we got another elephant in the room is law enforcement. It's getting out of hand. I mean, we need to come up with some idea on how to fund this other than property taxes. Mr. Westland said, you know, they're ongoing and they're getting out of hand. They are. You know, we're gonna have about 1.4 million in costs for the law enforcement center out of Ramsey County alone. We need a little help here somehow. I remember how social service funding was taken care of when we had what you call the so-called Indian County money. I was wondering if there's any chance we could get to a bill of that nature that would help some of these law enforcement centers that are seeing a large influx of prisoners coming in. And I know we want to stay safe. I don't think we have any ideas of defunding the police in this state, but we need to figure out some way to come up with a formula that takes care of some of this funding for law enforcement centers through sales tax, because they're the beneficiaries of this. Not only alcohol, but all sales tax. Something should be taken care of and kicked back to the counties that are seeing these large influence or increases of prisoners. Our capacity out there is 102. And we were banging on that most of the last 6 months. Federal, they want to bring prisoners to us. Yeah, that's a paying proposition for the law enforcement center, but it still takes a lot of room and a lot of help, people there to take care of things. But I just wondered if we could come up with something that would, you know, help these law enforcement centers that are seeing this large increase in prisoners.
Are all these centers like this in the same situation, Ed, or are we unique in the Lake region?
Well, we're pretty unique here, but I think Bismarck Mandan's seeing a large increase. They're full a lot. Grand Forks is. They're getting some off the border though. They're taking prisoners there where they're bringing them down, and we don't see any prisoners off, you know, that get picked up on the border. Unless we're holding them for another county.
My understanding is it's pretty common in at least most of the
You may have to, Carrie's gonna step forward and she has some comments, so she's gonna get a little closer to the microphone so we can all hear her.
Of all your mics, one that they're stepping forward to, I can hear real good on that one. Everybody else, that's probably the mask a little bit too, but it is sort of hard to hear some of you.
Can you hear me okay?
Real good now, yes.
Good. Well, thank you for coming and taking the time to visit with us. Just generally as a state's attorney, what I see is it's common, at least in this half of the state, that we're running into maximum occupancy in all of our jail centers. We're moving people around, so if they're not fitting in some of the lower tiered facilities, they're coming over to Ramsey County. We are running anywhere between 99 and 106 people, which is slightly over capacity, and we have been for months. That plays into the COVID issue, of course, and the hierarchy or priority structure of the Department of Corrections. But yeah, our caseloads are higher. They have been higher for the last 5 or 6 years, and I don't see that ending, but we do what we can to try and not have people in detention if they don't have to be in detention, but sometimes for public safety, there's no way around it. But we've had situations in the last 3 months where law enforcement has made an arrest in a county or tried to make an arrest in a county, and they've called 4 or 5 different correctional facilities to try and find a spot to put this person. And that's violent type offenses, not felony ones, but still violent offenses, and they're having problems with even facilities to take people. So those are my comments, I guess. Thank you.
So who's got this portfolio? Ed?
Yes,
Who else?
and Jeff.
So maybe we should visit before we go to Bismarck, huh? You got some ideas?
I think it would help, yeah.
Yeah. So we're not gonna solve it this evening, but we should probably visit about this before we go down there and see what we can come up with.
Commissioner Whitelaw, anything for the legislators?
Nothing in particular. You guys have touched on pretty much everything I had a question on, so.
Commissioner Volk? Okay. Commissioner Wakefield?
I think I'm all right for now.
Okay. Commissioner Brown, anything else?
I'm
All right. Well, again, I want to thank each and every one of you for everything that you do for the citizens of Ramsey County and your district. I know District 15 expands much further than just Ramsey County, but thank you for everything that you do and your dedication to the people of the state of North Dakota. Appreciate you guys coming in. Wish you guys a very Merry Christmas.
So thank you, and thank you for what you do, and we're only as good as the input we get from you folks that are trying to take care of things at the local level there, so we sure can't do it without you guys, so we appreciate it.
Yeah, my phone line and email is always open, so if you have any comments or whatever, give me a call or email me. Be more than happy to listen.
And I think as part of the discussion is that, you know, session's certainly going to be different with walking around the halls of the Capitol and grabbing Senator Elke or Representative Westland and, you know, bending their ear a little bit about something. But we do have your phone numbers, we have your emails. We appreciate the opportunity for communicating, and thank you guys again for everything. And we know money's going to be tight down there, and things may be difficult to funnel back up this way, but we appreciate everything you guys do for us. Thank you.
You know, this might be something, I just throw this out here, food for thought, but this might be something this winter we come back and have our forums and stuff. Maybe this would be something be a little easier to, you know, be it education or city or county issues or whatever, is to be able to hook up like this during one of your meetings to visit instead of coming back on Saturday or something too.
Sounds like a good idea.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think Representative Westland and Senator Elke would be happy to do that.
You know, I really like these Zoom meetings. I think it's going to be the new normal.
Thank you once again. We'll move on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, David.
You bet. We'll continue on with the agenda. Unfinished business. We have a COVID-19 discussion.
Kevin?
Oh, Kevin. Oh, skipped right over you. Sorry, Kevin.
All right, can everybody hear me from here? Or you all right. Okay, to start off with, we did have a battery stolen out of one of our trucks, so, and they broke some windows out of some of the cars in the impound, and they also cut the lock on the health department's COVID trailer. So at this point, we're just looking to get some quotes as to what surveillance cameras would cost, but I haven't got any quotes yet. Kind of the holiday season, we're slowing everything down here, but I hope to have some at the next meeting.
That's not true.
I'll just get it.
I just said
Yeah, we
plus.
did find a hole in the fence. And we found some hole.
So anyway,
So they-
how's the Christmas going?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
So yeah, we did patch the hole in the fence, we found that, but.
So you have some quotes for security or surveillance? Security
Right.
cameras?
Not yet, I asked for it, but I haven't gotten it back yet.
I think it's relatively inexpensive for the liability that it sets us up for not having.
And just visiting around the community, they're not as expensive as I thought they would be. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that goes.
Has this sort of thing ever happened before while you've been here?
This is the first time in my 24 years.
Because I've never heard of anybody, cutting through a fence and cutting through chain link. I mean, you might not want to leave your vehicle unlocked. I had somebody go on a joyride in mine one night, but that, we got it back. It was okay. I watched the headlights go into the distance, so I was able to call right away. But that's a little unusual.
Yeah, we're all fenced in, and the gates are all locked. Yeah, we've had horses or ponies in there before, but never heard anybody steal anything.
We have, did any of the, well, there are not many adjacent businesses, but anybody else have any problems? Or was this direct, they were coming straight for your facility?
I haven't heard any. Across the street to the south, somebody stole a bunch of tires off one of the cars.
I heard about that a couple weeks ago. There was a couple other
Oh, yeah.
lots of it's tires stolen off. There's been some break-ins happening. I've heard about. Not the only ones.
Our cameras will just surveil a lot, basically. They won't get the neighbors, but we'll do search and rescue and task force will do that too, so the whole grounds will be surveyed. And we got some invoices from the DOT for our share of paving on a project on Ramsey County 2 with Elks Drive. The total amount for those is $49,183.27. There's still gonna be one more. We haven't finalized that project out yet, so there'll be another one to pay in. I'd like to motion to pay that $49,000.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to pay the invoice from North Dakota Department of Transportation for Elks Drive. Roll call, please.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Lightfon,
Aye.
Volk,
Aye.
Brett.
Aye.
And I guess along with that, the engineering from KLJ on Ramsey County 2 and Elks Drive, they had an invoice for $3,937.37. That was one of the ones on the bill list. So we need a motion to pay that.
Move to approve. Second.
Moved and approved, moved and seconded to pay the KLJ engineering bill on that same project, or is that the same project, correct?
Yes.
Roll call, please. The amount on that, Kevin, again, was
$3,937.37.
Brown,
Aye.
Volk,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Lightfon,
Aye.
Brett.
aye.
And also at the last meeting, we had motion to order culverts, so those culverts showed up and they're in the lot now, so the total bill for those was $20,896.90. So I'd like a motion to pay that.
That's to True North.
Yes, True North Steel.
So
I'll take a second.
we have a motion and a second to pay the invoice for True North Steel for the culverts, $20,896.90. Roll call, please.
Volk,
Aye.
Lightfon,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Brett.
Aye.
That's all I have.
Any questions for Kevin? Thank you so much. Now we can move on to unfinished COVID business. Numbers are coming down, which is great to see. We do have an extension that's needed in our policy to extend the Families First Coronavirus Act. This is something that was put in buckets, put in our policy plan. And this has been extended through the end of March 2021. Otherwise, it would end the end of this year current that we're currently in. And I spoke to Crystal about that, and Crystal, you have comments about that? Did I cover it correctly?
Sure, so it was mandatory, the regulation was mandatory till the end of December, but now it's voluntary for an employer until the March 31st is what they're looking for to extend it to. And that's kind of what other counties are looking at also. So just to extend that verbiage because it is voluntary for the employer, but
This has to do with the sick leave, things of that nature, correct?
yeah, so this is only for the child care portion. So if the child is or be a close contact or have COVID or school shut down, daycare shut down, this for taking that case, we still have that plan where any COVID related leave for an employee would be waived. We're not stick with that piece. I think that's a good piece. We haven't had maybe one that was iffy about abusing it, but out of all employees, I think it's gone over fairly well with those abuse.
Well, 3 more months gets us out into vaccine territory. Hopefully we'll have people starting to get, not just first responders and stuff, vaccines will start to come out, and that'll get us more towards the flu and start to stuff a little bit. So I'll make a motion, we extend,
3 more months of school, still more.
yeah. I'll make a motion, we extend it to March 31st.
Second. Not more on March 31st, correct?
Yeah.
Correct. Yep.
Because I got the date right.
Moved and seconded that we extend the Families First Corona Act to March 31st, 2021. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
So just so I'm clear now, the employee part of it will stay the same as before that motion.
Yeah, right.
Correct.
And at some point, I suppose we'll have to have the discussion once vaccinations start to occur and staff gets vaccinated, when we're going to allow that to expire and go back towards what we did previously. But I would assume that's gonna be a little bit weird now. But I saw that some community members are starting to get vaccinated now.
Yes, yeah, it's a good sign.
At the end of the tunnel.
We got an update from Lake Region District Health at the community coronavirus committee meeting this afternoon, and they started yesterday with the Moderna vaccinations, and they had 100 doses, I believe, and they're expecting more shipments arrive. And one of the things that Lake Region District Health asked about was utilizing the memorial building for vaccination purposes. And I think we have a plan in place to allow them to utilize that. I think it's going to work. We're trying to be very flexible with the middle school basketball practices that take place up there. But obviously public health and emergency vaccinations come before that. I'm working with district health, and hopefully they can schedule those in the morning, be out of there in the afternoon, get practices in there without too much disruption. The school just asked that they have a little bit of heads up. Sometimes that may not always be possible with the arrival of the vaccination on short notice kind of thing, and trying to get that scheduled, but trying to get the kids as accommodated as well without a lot of disruption in their routines as well. But I think things are going to work. We've talked to Chris and Crystal about the possibility of reopening the building for public access, ensuring that we have adequate personal protective equipment, that our employees are safe and protected, and looking at, we don't want to pigeonhole ourselves into a date or a number, but as numbers continue to decline and the positivity rates continue to decline, that's something that we're gonna have to decide as a county when we wanna do that. So, you know, I know the city stated last night at their meeting that they're gonna open up their building for public access, looking at the 19th of January, which would, you know, give us 2 weeks following the Christmas, New Year's holiday to see how, if there's a surge in numbers, positivity rates after that. And that would be a good benchmark for us to look at, but I don't think at this time we wanted to set a date, because we don't wanna be going back and forth with openings, closings kind of thing. We wanna make sure that everything is set and we're safe to do so, not only for our employees, but for the public that we serve, so.
Like you said, that our second meeting in January, I believe, is on the 19th.
Correct.
So that puts us 3 weeks out from Christmas at that point. So if there's gonna be any increase at that point, we'll have a pretty good clue as to what's going on, and we can make a decision. At that point, maybe we could say the 1st of February or something like that, but we'll definitely have that discussion.
And you're probably gonna see the statement.
Yeah, and we'll see the state make a lot of those decisions, and recommendations for us.
And they'll be changing colors and things of such nature if we continue to track the way we're tracking.
Yeah, so, you know, everybody, continue to do the safety protocols as you feel necessary, and we'll, you know, hopefully see our numbers continue to decline. Any other further discussion on COVID? Crystal, I can't think of anything, can you? No, Andy, everything's going good. I think the way things have been working, it seems to be working. I know some departments would like to see doors open and public allowed access more for a convenience standpoint on their behalf. Others would like to see it continue to remain the way it is by appointment only. I guess leaving it up to departments and department heads to do what's best for themselves and their employees and their people that they serve. Whether it be, you know, allowing people to continue to telecommute or telework, if you would. I guess that's appropriate to continue doing that, if that's working out for the departments and the department heads. But I don't know about any other commissioners, but I haven't had any complaints from the public that they're not being served or they're being underserved. Anybody have any of those type of, so I think we'll continue as we have been, and hopefully our numbers work out to where they're going. Carrie, is the courts still operating as?
Most of our stuff is still by Zoom.
By Zoom?
We have jury trials were suspended just through, I think, the 11th or 12th of January. We don't know if any further orders will come, but some of our hearings are in person, which depends.
Sure.
And each county is kind of different, even in the judicial district.
Okay. Rhonda, is everything working with social services?
Yes, we have, you know, we've had it's been a go, but most people have really adjusted. A little concerned about the traffic. We do have a fair amount of non-compliance with masks, and we have anywhere from 25, 30 people a day that come in, so we'll have to address that as it comes. But I'll probably purchase some PPE to have at our desks to ask them to put it on, but otherwise, no, people have adjusted surprisingly well.
As far as I know, the governor hasn't lifted those indoor mask requirements that he has put in place since November. So, you know, we're still asking people, the public, to do that as they come in. So hopefully people are compliant and understand that. Thank you. Anything else? New business? Moving through, beer license. We have a list of them to approve. This is an annual thing for out-of-city limits bars, Ties, Buckhorn Saloon, Crow's, Lakeside, Devils Lake, Parks and Recs, Grill Bay Golf Course, Checkered Flag, Brew Granger Convenience Stores, Webster Bar, Military Service Club, Patriot Fuels, Wally's Wild West Roadhouse, and Thirsties.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the beer license. All the paperwork's been submitted, I presume, and everything is good to approve those. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval of site authorization. This is for gaming for rural fire at Wally's. Second. Been moved and seconded to approve the site authorization. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Appoint to special assessment commission. We have a letter of interest from Eric Bourne, who served on that position prior, and he states that he's interested. Need a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve Mr. Bourne for the special assessment commission. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And then approval of transfer of funds. We have a couple here, one for the law enforcement center and one for emergency management. And this is standard year-end transfers to those.
Making sure we got money to pay the bill.
Yeah.
And the law enforcement center, we had to change to 311,470.11 due to
311?
311,470.
When I said 1.4 million, I was pretty close.
A little higher.
Little higher.
It's a little higher than that.
Yeah, how about
1.5.
1.7?
I was doing the math over here, that's about 22 mils. Pretty close. That's a lot.
That's a lot. Got more than that.
Especially when we can only do 10 for them and the rest comes out of the general fund.
We gotta go 12 over the 10, yeah.
27 and whether it was
27 though.
27? Really?
That's give or take. That's definitely needing help.
So,
You know, like you said, that's definitely needing help.
Yeah, I mean, it's like crazy, my God. Come on, we gotta lay all that with property taxes? There's other centers in the state that are strapped too.
But at the very least, the place to start is, I mean, discussing it with them is, you know, if they're going to have a diversion of prisoners from the state facilities down to the counties, they should pick that up. I mean, that should be just a given. I mean, if we're gonna house their prisoners for them, they should pay us. Then the other one is looking at, you know.
They did pay us.
Yeah, but that was a one-time expenditure because they got money out of the CARES Act.
Right.
They were under no legal ramification to pay us. I mean, it was good they did,
Yes,
but they didn't have to. I think going forward, that should be just an automatic.
yeah. it should be
If we're gonna house for them, they should pay us. It's no different than any other contract we have with anybody else.
So that would help.
Yeah, it would help some. I mean, it's not a huge dollar figure, but it's still just generally good practice, I think. And then the other thing is some type of, you know, like a cost share agreement where, you know, per day or whatever, I mean, you gotta look at something, yeah. It's something we've been talking about for quite a while.
I don't admit, Bismarck, Mandan, they get hit, you know. I don't wanna point the finger to anybody, but, you know, it's just
Well, and
back to life.
I think some of it comes down to it's a hub community problem. Because when people come into the hub communities, we pick them up here more often, and then we end up footing the bill for Ramsey County, even though they're probably not from here or from anywhere, you know?
Minot gets it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, larger cities end up picking up more people because that's where people show up to do what they're gonna do, and just how that works. So I think the hub counties probably need a little bit more help in those situations, so it's something we need to look at.
We need a motion to approve. You want these motions individually or together?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and approved, or moved and seconded to approve the transfers. Is that a roll call or just go ahead and do it? Just do it. Okay.
Yep.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Visitors and delegations, I don't think there's anybody here that has anything else. Anybody online, Steve, that has anything? All right.
I couldn't help myself.
Any additional announcements?
I saw that on 39 for social service. No, I don't have that.
Everyone enjoy the holidays.
Carrie, did you and Rhonda have something for us?
There you go.
Okay. With that, I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas. Want to thank our employees for all their hard work and dedication this past year. And we're extremely grateful for their continued hard work for the citizens of Ramsey County. A very heartfelt thank you and wish all of them a very Merry Christmas. And with that, motion to adjourn.
So move.
All right. We are adjourned.
I'm good at hitting that gal. We would have.
Oh.
You're waiting, aren't you?